What is good, people? Satsuki the Savage here, and today I'm going to be talking At Age, more specifically the rivalry between Yonagi and Chiyoko Momoshiro. Now, I wanted to do this video as a contribution to the At Age community because there's not a lot of videos talking about this series, although I will say that At Age seems to be gaining traction for what I've seen on social media and in my circle of friends, so I'm happy to see that. But if you guys want to check out more content on At Age, you can check out Dustan's stream because I did a stream with him as well as Townzie, and we were talking about At Age kind of in its entirety. We were going from arc to arc, but more specifically, we were talking about this current arc, the Princess Iron Fan arc, and I don't actually know when this video will actually be out, so I don't know if we'll still be on this current arc, but it is what it is. Spoilers for At Age. I'm going to be spoiling everything, so if you are not caught up with the manga, I advise you not to watch this video. With that being said, let's get talking. Before I talk about At Age's finest, I believe it's necessary to define what I think a good rivalry is. First and foremost, the literal definition of a rivalry is as follows: competition for the same objective or for superiority in the same field. Short and simple. Now, what makes a rivalry good is subjective, but I think there are four major elements that could be found in the DNA of a quality rivalry. Number 1. History. Great rivalries likely have some sort of longevity. It's an aggregation of all the back and forth competition between two parties. Number 2. Contrasting types, styles, or philosophies. This is pretty much the whole appeal of the age-old brain versus brawn matchup. Of course, not all rivals had to directly oppose each other, but it makes things easier since certain opposing types already have history. Think about opposing types like the underdog versus the genius, or simply good versus evil. Number 3, a good rivalry pushes the rivals to greater heights. A fight in which two sides try to outdo one another often results in those sides growing in their field of competition. A truly good rivalry wouldn't allow the rivals to stay complacent. Lastly, I think with a good rivalry, the rivals in question have to acknowledge the competition between each other. Let's take a look at the NBA for a second. The fans, the league, and whoever else can try to manufacture some rivalry between two teams all they want, but it pales in comparison to the players accepting the challenge of a rivalry. The Celtics versus the Lakers rivalry wouldn't be the same had players like Magic and Bird ignored the obvious tension between the two teams. So I think a good rivalry has the parties recognize that they are in fact rivals. Those are the four major components that I think make a rivalry good. For me, the perfect model of a classic rivalry is L versus Light. These two check all of the boxes of what is in a good rivalry. They both had battle history. Their characters both oppose each other fundamentally, with L representing justice and Light representing evil. They both had to outsmart each other, and as a result, learn and got better. And finally, they both acknowledged that they were rivals, albeit not outright verbally, of course. Transitioning to our queens, Yonagi and Chiyoko Momoshiro. Let's get into the reasons why I love their rivalry. For one, these two have a very unique rivalry for the simple fact that their area of competition is acting. Usually when we think of rivalries, we think of fighting, sports, pretty much any activity that involves opposing sides. In acting though, outside of auditions, there's rarely a clash between actors or actresses. That is, until two girls alter that perspective, especially in the Rasetsuno arc. The Rasetsuno or Princess Iron Fan arc changed the game completely by introducing the concept of double casting. In short order, double casting is having different actors or actresses play the exact same role. With this system, an actor's performance can be directly compared to their double cast counterpart, potentially creating a rivalry. In the case of Yonagi and Chiyoko, they're both cast to play Princess Iron Fan, presenting a golden opportunity for them to measure up against each other. Again, this rivalry is special to me because although Yonagi and Chiyoko aren't physically butting heads, the competition between the two is as intense and real as any fistfight you may be accustomed to. As for my other reasons as to why I think the rivalry between Yonagi and Chiyoko is good, look to my four major elements. History. Contrasting characters. Progression through competition. An acknowledgement of the rivalry. Long ago, the four elements lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the... Alright, I'll cover these elements individually, detailing its significance to Yonagi and Chiyoko, starting with the first one, history. The past of Yonagi and Chiyoko isn't a lengthy one by any stretch of the imagination, but it still exists. The first time Yonagi was aware of Chiyoko was during her appearance at the Death Island production press conference. In this one-sided encounter, Yonagi called Chiyoko beautiful, but remarked that she couldn't see her real face. As for Chiyoko's first encounter with Yonagi, she met face-to-face with her during a meeting organized by director Tezuka. In Chiyoko's confrontation with Yonagi, she instantly called out her acting, which I'll go into detail in a later segment, and she questioned how Yonagi was capable of her performance in the Death Island audition. I mentioned these two moments because although Yonagi and Chiyoko weren't competing at this point yet, it marked the beginning of their rivalry. Both characters were intrigued by the other, Yonagi because she wanted to see the true face of Chiyoko, and Chiyoko because she didn't quite comprehend the acting style of Yonagi. Supporting this, the mutual interest Yonagi and Chiyoko shared was also noticed by the directors Koriyama and Tezuka, who had vital roles in cultivating their rivalry. Koriyama was the person who made Yonagi familiar with Chiyoko and instigated their rivalry somewhat by instructing Yonagi to steal Chiyoko's techniques. On the part of Tezuka, he immediately realized Chiyoko's interest in Yonagi during their first meeting. Given that, Tezuka also felt the friction that was present between Yonagi and Chiyoko, prompting him to make major amendments to the Death Island script solely so Yonagi could break Chiyoko's mask. Thanks to those directors, the scenes that Yonagi and Chiyoko acted together in during Death Island was less of a cooperative effort and more of a competitive one. This rivalry continued into the Galactic Railroad arc, although there wasn't much of it. In this arc, Chiyoko was on the sidelines as a mere observer, but this is where she bore witness to Yonagi's emergence as a star. Giving Yonagi's stellar performance as Campanella in a prolific play directed by the legendary Awawa Yujiro in the wake of his death nonetheless, Yonagi had buzz surrounding her that was on par with Chiyoko, further fueling the rivalry between the two. Lastly, we have the Princess Ironfan art, where, as I stated before, is the literal stage to promote the rivalry between our two heroines. Bearing in mind the setup of this play, comparing Yonagi and Chiyoko is unavoidable, so their acting talent is pitted against one another and evaluated on which is better. Having said that, that about covers the history of Yonagi and Chiyoko's rivalry. The next portion to talk about is the polar opposite types of the two. Beginning with their designs, Yonagi and Chiyoko have clear features that seem to contrast each other, like Yonagi's raven black hair versus Chiyoko's pearl white hair, Yonagi's long hair versus Chiyoko's short hair, Yonagi's dark colored eyes versus Chiyoko's bright colored eyes. And looking at their natural resting face, Yonagi's facial expression is usually neutral with a slight frown, while Chiyoko's facial expression comes off as friendly with a faint smile. Piling onto the list, even the nicknames of Yonagi and Chiyoko also tell a tale. Chiyoko is referred to as the Angel of Stars, which represents her perfect, larger-than-life image. Yonagi, on the other hand, has a couple of names she goes by. Big Sis, Kicking Girl, Antenna Girl, Puke Girl, Shinjuku Girl, Akira's girlfriend, but the one relevant here is the Bulldozer. When I think of someone being described as a bulldozer, I think of adjectives like dirty, gritty, and destructive, which is quite the opposite of words associated with an angel. Furthermore, the Bulldozer nickname was originated by Tezuka, who gave Yonagi that name because she was meant to challenge Chiyoko and break her mask. So, in short, Yonagi and Chiyoko's nicknames mark the contradiction between their characters. The next area of disparity between Yonagi and Chiyoko is their style of acting. Yonagi's signature is method acting, which in essence is using past emotions to fuel a performance. Chiyoko, however, acts with objectivity. She doesn't require her emotions to perform. Additionally, when acting, Yonagi is hyper-focused on herself and tends to ignore her surroundings, while Chiyoko seems to be only concerned with outside viewpoints, discarding her sense of self. Interesting enough, not only is the opposition of Yonagi and Chiyoko's style displayed by themselves, but it also extends to the actors that they are modeled after. For Yonagi, she has been heavily implied to be just like Prime Arisa in the past, at least with their method acting. As for Chiyoko, she has literally said that she was raised to be like Ogami. Now, whether it's a coincidence or by design, Ogami grew to reject Star's agency and abandon Arisa, and as it stands in the current art, they directly oppose each other, much like Yonagi and Chiyoko. The final difference between Yonagi and Chiyoko I wish to touch upon is their opposing archetypes. At their cores, Yonagi and Chiyoko split. illustrated by Ryugo once referring to them as beast and beauty respectively, but what specific different archetypes I'm alluding to is the natural talent versus hard worker. Yonagi is a prodigy. She was a rookie actress who was contending with the Angel of Stars in their very first movie gig. Conversely, Chiyoko is a product of diligence. Now, of course Chiyoko isn't talentless, but we've seen her work ethic by doing things like watching film obsessively and inserting herself into the storyboarding process. This, coupled with the fact that we know that Chiyoko has been acting since she was a child, leads me to the conclusion that unlike Yonagi, acting doesn't come nearly as natural to Chiyoko. Thus, they part with Yonagi sitting in the genius archetype and Chiyoko sitting in the hard-working archetype, two classic sides that are a rivalry waiting to happen. Finally, moving on to the last segment, this time talking about the girls' acknowledgement of their rivalry and how the rivalry betters them. In chapter 64, appropriately titled Declaration of War, Chiyoko sought out Yonagi to make her intentions be known, which was that she is the star and not Yonagi. As for Yonagi, the feeling was mutual as she too wished to test the limits of her ability by competing against Chiyoko in the Princess Iron Fan play. And compete these two did, resulting in an improvement of their craft. A good example of this is during the Death Island movie, where Chiyoko and Yonagi had their first acting scene together. In this scene, because Yonagi didn't want to be upstaged by Chiyoko, she develops a new technique that allowed her to fabricate her emotions in order to see Chiyoko as a friend. The technique is successful and Yonagi is able to cry on reflex, which surprises Chiyoko and forces her to cry on cue to match Yonagi's performance. Chiyoko even remarks that she cannot let her guard down around Yonagi, meaning she has to bring her A game and vice versa. We also see that they have stolen skills from each other, Yonagi swiping Chiyoko's bird's eye perspective and Chiyoko copying Yonagi's method acting. Through these acts of imitation, both Yonagi and Chiyoko have further perfected their acting, and to that, their rivalry was essential. Alright people, that pretty much wraps up why I think the rivalry between Yonagi and Chiyoko Momoshiro is a good one. It's definitely my favorite in Shonen Jump simply because I don't read other Shonen Jump series. So there's that. But guys, tell me what you think about their rivalry. Do you think it's a good one, bad one, mediocre, whatever? Let me know in the comment section. But guys, that is it for me. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Satsuki the Savage, I am out.
Tasting your soul, you're not in control, just giving you goals. Scared of your past, the future is closed. The start is the end is a start. They both are the same, can't tell them apart. Nigga, that's cuz the intro is the outro.